My name is Mohammad Ali Baqiri. I am a Hazara from Afghanistan, fled Taliban to come and seek safety in Australia. I came by boat to Australia at the age of 10, and I spent almost 3 years of my life in a detention center in Nauru without my parents, as a number, not by my name, but I was called with a number. That experience there was terrible, and something that no child should ever go through. The Australian government kept on telling us that there's no hope that you guys will be settled in Australia. We know the conditions in those detention centers. The fellow detainees suffer, the hunger strike that they go through, lack of medical assistance. My question tonight for the panel is that why are the 231 children currently held under immigration detention center denied rights that for 800 years been a modern democratic legal system here in Australia?
Here today, Noel Pearson, can I start with you?
Tony, I have very young children. Started late. I'm a breeder too. So they're all asleep. But I cannot imagine the experience of children in detention. That is something beyond my ken, that young children in those circumstances. But I'm happy that there's only 100 and something, or I heard 200 there, I heard the speaker say 100 and something. I'm happy about that situation, that there's not 2,000 or over 1,000. So the government's policy in turning back the boats, I for one never thought it would work. Who in this audience actually thought a policy like that would produce the result it has? I'm kind of sympathetic to that result. I really like the idea of children not being on the high seas, and I like the idea of cutting down the number of children in detention. I think that the government had a very strong rebuttal case to put to the chair of the Human Rights Commission on the basis of that record. And I just regret that the attacks on Gillian have been so vicious. I think they had a strong argument to make. I like a policy that's producing less children on the high seas. We should do more, though. We should have proper facilities at the entry point for asylum seekers that provide health, education, the full set of needs being addressed whilst asylum seekers are being assessed.
I'm just going to quickly go back to our questioner, Mohammed. Now, it's clear from your T-shirt, and in fact we know because you contacted us, that you were down in Canberra to make a protest. I just want to make it clear that you contacted us to come and ask this question, so we know it's not a setup. You came to us to ask this question. We've allowed you to do it. Now I want to hear answers from other people, and I'll start with Gillian Triggs.
Well, I'm delighted to see you in Australia and looking so well and healthy. I have to agree that it's been wonderful to see the children released into the community and on bridging visas, working into schools and leading healthy lives. We still have 127 children in detention in Australia, and the purpose of the Commission's inquiry was to examine the medical and physical conditions of the children of prolonged detention, which has been the case for many of these children. But there's no doubt at all, of course, that release of the children has relieved the problem over the last few months, and we couldn't be happier than to know that they're now out in the community. But we would also like to see the remaining children released into the community, and of course there are another 95 children on Nauru who presumably, you may even know some of them, but these are the children that we also believe Australia retains responsibility for, and we would like to see those too brought back into Australia and allowed to get on with their lives.
Bronwyn Bishop. Sorry, Luca, you can come to you in a second.
Very quickly, Gillian, if I can say, that report of yours was seen by many, including me, as one that was, if it was to be done, should have been done under the previous government when there were 2,000 children, but you chose to do it afterwards, and that made it very political. And it has made you a very political figure, and therefore you are subject to criticism. As I said before, you have to make the decision. Are you a statutory officer carrying out an obligation with the protection of that office, or do you wish to be a political participant? If you do wish to be a political participant, then you have to be no longer a statutory officer and perhaps stand for office.
Go ahead, Gillian Triggs. You need to
Well,
answer
I
that.
am a statutory officer, and that's a position of independence which allows me to speak based on the evidence and based on the law as truthfully as I can to government and to the Australian people, and that is what I believe I have been doing. I've been meeting my statutory obligations. Indeed, were I to receive frequent praise and commendation from the government, I think the Australian people would have a good reason to ask for my resignation.
It's a very curious argument.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
I wonder if I could just make one further point, and that is that throughout the years of the former government, we produced 180 different pieces of work, reports, mandatory detention centres, reports to the government. We had a special inquiry into the use of wrist x-rays to determine the age of children, and I went to Christmas Island and to various other detention centres. So I think it would be fair to say that we worked as strongly during the former government to protest against the holding of children for long periods of time as we did under the new government. Although our plan, of course, was to hold an inquiry in 2014, we weren't to know which government was going to win that election. And also that inquiry was, of course, backward-looking. It wasn't for the forward months. It was to examine what was the effect on the children of the period in which they were held in such large numbers and for such long periods of time. So perhaps I can finish, if I may, by saying that my position is not a political one. We work according to the law at the Australian Human Rights Commission, and we try to ensure that our evidence is accurate and well-founded. But unfortunately, of course, many of our findings and recommendations are interpreted in political ways, and I'm afraid in the human rights context it's very hard not to be perceived to be political, and that's really something we have to manage. But I can certainly assure the Australian people that the Human Rights Commission operates in a very neutral way, and we operate on the basis of the rule of law, which brings us, of course, back to the Magna Carta.